Hello. I'm gonna go ahead and just get started talking about the readings. I will be upfront and honest, I haven't gotten through all of them, but I will touch on some of the things I've been pondering just from the class sessions as well as the readings that I've gotten through. It's kind of interesting taking this class because it seems like it's not only addressing kind of the pursuit and want to make sense of things and make things organized and well set up and prepared for the future, both whether it be in this class specifically or other classes, just finishing up our last semester of education, but also the goal of the class itself is kind of to transcend out of this particular context and just prepare us for the future, and like you said at the beginning of the class, impart us with some wisdom and how to move forward with things. And I really appreciate what we've read so far, what I've been able to read of what we've been assigned. And one of the things that I think from the first week there were a couple that I've read that have really stuck out to me, were the readings by Schweitzer and Bateson. And I guess just this time of transition, which all of us are experiencing right now, the composing a life story seems to be really helpful because whether it be just during the school year or, the rest of your life during like the summer and all that kind of stuff, it feels like there's a lot of learning, and transition can be a really difficult time to navigate. So I really appreciated the fact that she talked about trying to look for continuity, and that's a strategy. Not necessarily everyone does that, but I feel like that definitely is, as we're kind of studying the church, walking through the book of Acts, there's always continuity with the Lord. And so, we're living in his meta-narrative, and I just thought that was really interesting to try to see, and I think is really cool as a Christian to be able to look back and see the continuity in our lives just because of the work of the Lord. And with that, the Schweitzer reading was really, it was challenging because it really made me look at, at times I've definitely felt this kind of call or pull to live a life that's not typical, I guess. And I think missionary work is certainly a part of that, but not really knowing what that looks like, and kind of pursuing and just walking forward in faith, and also not letting kind of chronic anxiety and depression have a strong voice in that. And I also really enjoyed reading from the second set of readings, Abraham Joshua Heschel's The Sabbath. It was interesting reading that and definitely seeing, not just because he would refer to rabbis, but definitely seeing more of the Jewish understanding of the Sabbath and how it's a really beautiful thing, and how that the wisdom that he displays that is carried on by tradition and biblical understanding, like there's such a beauty and appreciation for the Sabbath, and I feel like I gleaned a lot from that. But also I think what's really cool is that like a Christian perspective really expands that as well, and adds again a sense of liberty to that day. But I did feel challenged by his seeking out, and certainly what I've experienced before with the Sabbath and keeping it pretty diligently, transcending kind of the typical human pace and really experiencing kind of that eternal perspective that he really addressed. So just, yeah, thinking about that alongside how, again, that's also very, like, geographically cultural as well, because Guy, I mean, he's from Brazil, and granted, I think he's just really wise and kind of just diverse in his theology, both because of study and in culture. He has a really different perspective on the Sabbath that has challenged me a lot as well, that Jesus invites us, which again would, kind of diverge from Heschel's perspective, but Jesus says, like, now is the day of the Lord's favor, and that really talks about, kind of this year of Jubilee, which is kind of like the ultimate observance of the Sabbath. And so kind of seeing that, like, we're invited into that every day. The book of Hebrews talks about that, like, today is the day. So seeing, I don't know, I struggle with seeing the Sabbath as necessarily one single day of the week, but rather as just kind of like a lifestyle that we embrace, which is interesting because that's also the idea of Sabbath, yet like really diligent work, is countercultural, both in kind of like the secular world, but also even just in American Christianity. It's not necessarily, the Sabbath isn't upheld, or the work week isn't necessarily upheld in the same ways around the world as it is in the States. So I feel pretty challenged by that, and I'm excited to kind of reflect on that as well as we move forward in the class. So I know I definitely went over in time, but yeah, it's good stuff. I appreciate the class. Thanks.